Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum, and in this game, you'll learn something new about the Vulcan Marksman. Let's go. Alright, at the bottom here, we have Skay playing as a Rhino Specialist, and he's up against Sarah's Victoria playing as a Marksman Specialist. I believe Skay is around 2,100, and Sarah's Victoria, I haven't really heard of that name, but since this is the tournament finals, I think he's pretty good as well. Very classic standard setup, right? You have your Stormcallers a little off to the side on the tower. We have arc lights in front of the tower, late arriving fangs. The reason why we have late arriving fangs is that when the battle starts, in around 20 seconds, these fangs will start walk to in front of the Stormcallers, providing defense as well as any sort of chaff clear in case there are crawlers coming in. At the bottom here, we do have the sledgehammers trying to tank that first volley, and then the fans are following behind, trying to get through that. The marksman actually got rid of the arc lights fairly early, allowing the tanks and the fans to advance a little bit further. Otherwise, I think the arc light would have been doing a lot of damage. It's always tricky when you're running into Stonecallers into round 1 as sledgehammers, but there is some order to this chaos if you positioning your units correctly. Personally, when I like to play sledgehammers, I like to have them as the first unit that take the Stonecaller shots, and then I have my crawlers following behind them. The idea is I'm trying to get through the arc light before my crawler is getting range, so that way they can actually work on the Stonecallers. Round 2 got reinforcement. Redeployment is a fantastic card. I think that's definitely a very strong contender. Intensive training is good too. I think redeployment is a bit more powerful in aggro, where you do have to move around a lot and start pressuring different points of weakness, whereas in standard everything is kind of in the back and you know exactly where and how the battle is going to happen right there in the middle. So there could be a case made where the intensive training might be better. Intensive training could also be good if either side are going into either carry arc lights or carry marksman, but in this case we are not seeing any early commitment yet, so with just both sides just bolstering up the board. Though I do want to give a slight point for Sarah's Victoria because of the Stonecaller Arclight combo. This is such a solid foundation for your army. Whereas for Skay, the sledgehammers, they're just not as good of a chaff clear. And you'll see it right now, right? Without these fans to help with these crawlers, I think the sledgehammers will actually take quite a while to get rid of that 3 squads of crawlers. Alright, marksman putting in the work, sniping the arc lights once again. Stonecallers getting things done. There's a huge pack of fans here that's not allowing this level 3 marksman to get the damage it wants. So far it's only been doing under 4,000 damage. Marksman on the right though, picking up several Stonecallers, leaving just one. But I think red will take this turn. Round 3, we got Bombard. And also Smoke. I think these both are great cards. Mobile Beacon in a standard game, it could be useful if you wanted to use it for a pack of crawlers at the front, so you don't have to get it from the tower. But otherwise, I think the other 2 options are more enticing. Escape, pick the Orbital Bombard. Great choice. Very slow moving units, right, if at all, because of the Stonecallers. And it's going to be bombards from Sarah's Victoria as well. One thing to note is that these tanks are leveled, which means they are taking twice as long to kill from the Stonecallers. But for now though, still 0 commitment on technology. All right, I suppose this could be a commitment. We got triple tech sledgehammers. Very difficult to remove. And I think SCA specifically picked this one because it is away from the level 3 marksman. So this could be a nuisance. We're also seeing multiple marksmen coming down. So SCA is kind of morphing this board either in just sledgehammer marksman or, as we usually see in this sort of standard play, Vulcan marksman. Very powerful combination. Whereas Series Victoria so far is Stonecaller Arclight, so it's a reminiscence of a 201 build, right? Stonecaller Arclight Melting Point in the later games. Also very strong. All right, no shield coming in from SCA, so it's just gonna take it. But the tanks are high levels, which means they are going to be okay. My real concern here is just chaff clear. We do have crawlers still running in, and the only chaff clear here for our blue player are these two sledgehammers. But it seems like they're holding on their own, and now they're getting onto the arc lights. Being such high levels, they're able to pop the arc lights in just a few shots. And this marksman is going to take forever, because the sledgehammer actually has around 10k HP, so the marksman takes about 4 shots to get rid of it. 5 actually, because they're only doing 2300. Shield gets popped. That is a pretty big deal. But that's 100 supply. That down the drain. Alright, so tanks are really paying off dividends here. Level 3 marksman though, with the help with this single Stormcaller, was able to pop both of these tanks. And that ended up in a draw. Unit drop, we got double Scorpions. I think that's a no-brainer after seeing high-level tanks. But for our blue player, it's going to be... What is it? He already has the Rhino. It's also going to be the double Scorpion. Okay. Alright, so it's going to be a Scorpion, Marksman, Sledgehammer. It's a little strange combo, but I think it could work. All of these units, every single one of these 3 units are excellent at a line battle like this. Alright, one of the Scorpion is sold. And here comes a Vulcan. So it is going into a Vulcan marksman comp. I see the technology on this Vulcan. So we got range, best partner, Incent, and Scorch. So very classic carry Vulcan style to go with the Vulcan marksman. With everything this far away, I think, and also with that many spots of fans, I suspect this Vulcan might go with range first. But he might not take Scorch in favor of best partner. Just have a little bit early marksman. And I think at some point the marksman will want to have range. Marksman tech is also interesting. This is not the standard 501 tech, right, with AA, with Elite. This is more of a tempo heavy marksman. So you get range, quick reload for extra damage, double shot. Well, quick reload doesn't give you the extra damage, but it reduces your overkill because you now shoot more frequently, and you're not going to overkill that much. Double shot gives you the extra damage, and then shooting squad gets you the extra 5 bands. So if you can make it work, you can have Vulcan creating marksman, creating 5 bands. All right. The tanks just continue to provide quite a bit of a challenge for our red player, and of course we got the big Rhino here. So Series Victoria right now needs to balance on multiple sides of the board, but namely anti-HP. So the Scorpion is a great start. I think he could very well go further into the Scorpion, considering all the units are currently on the ground. But there is a potential danger now that you've seen a Vulcan on the board with marksman. Tech research, I think that's a great card for both players. Neither of them have really taken any tech. Wouldn't be surprised that's what's picked for both sides. There's only 1 tech picked up for our red players and 0 tech for SCA. Alright, let's take a look at the chap line here. The chaff line is extremely similar. So we got about 4 squads of fans versus the 3 here. The 4 squads of the fans from our red player are positioned further behind, which means they will have a slightly longer chaff line, whereas for our blue player, these fans are essentially the first round of chaff that's going in. The pitching is taken for blue, but somehow not taken for red. Interesting. And Skay's already utilizing that technology, so double range on the Vulcan and on the Marksman. Tanks are still staying, and so is this Rhino. But for now, though, it's just going to be a little bit more chaffy. Notice there's the weakness of only having 6 arc lights. So arc lights are good in terms of chaff clear, all the way until loose, which, interestingly, Skay does not run loose. Which means these arc lights will actually be pretty darn effective down the line. Vulcan, though, is in a different ballpark. I think the Vulcan is just so much more efficient at chaff clearing, especially when you get range and Scourge. I can pretty much clear this entire 180 degree arc in front of it. And combined with ranged marksman, it's able to dish out a lot of punishment. This marksman is actually positioned fairly forward, but because of his superior range, eventually his buddies will catch up. And here's the problem. You notice that the Scorpion, they are simply not hitting the target that they're supposed to hit. This one is doing slightly better, but it is the level 3 sledgehammers that is really causing a lot of issues. And on the back end here, we do have high-level Stonecallers, but they're not getting the damage it wants to. I mean, it's getting the most damage, so it was landing some shots, but ideally we want it to be shooting at the sledgehammer so that it can start working on the rest of the units. But now, though, the sledgehammers are working on these giants. So we're all done. And man, level 2 Stonecallers hurt. Alright, we've got a second unit drop here. Melting Point is offered. I think red is going to take Melting Point. It just makes sense given the current look of the board. But instead, it's going to be Sandworm. Alright. I wonder if it's just going to keep or sell. But Skay is the one that's taking the Melting Point. So Sandworm is going to be in the back end. I think it's going to directly answer the Rhino. And the Melting Point working alongside the Marksman. Is that going to be a pivot, or is that just going to be a temporary unit? Alright, looking at the board here, it seems like the edge on the right is a little bit weak in terms of chaff clear, so we do have 2 squads of chaff that's coming in there. And then in the center, right here, I wouldn't call it weak because we do have 2 high-level sledgehammers. Alright, so we got one Vulcan protecting on the weak side. Oil in the middle. I think that is for this crawler to ignite and potentially kill off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 if this crawler starts to run towards the middle. And then we have Sandworm with armor, able to deal with the Vulcan and later on with the rest of the chaff. Right, so this is actually a pretty powerful. So it's drawing what, 5 squad, maybe more, of chaff here. Very good. Interesting melting point though. Wasn't sure the purpose of the melting point. I suppose it could be used to kill sandworms, but it's definitely not the efficient one because the sandworm is now getting onto the melting point and it won't get the opportunity to actually finish the sandworm. On the other side, the sandworm continues to rampage just through the lines here. The marksmen are getting stuck on chaff in the middle. So very good round here for Ceres Victoria. However, keep in mind though, in a standard game, range is kin. And I think Skay might be selling the melting point, seeing how disappointing that last round's performance was. Oil is offered again, so I wouldn't be surprised if oil is taken since how effective that was last round, just getting rid of 5 squads of chaps just like that. Alright, melting point did go away. I think there's now time for double shot and potentially quick reload. I would love to have double shot. It just gives them a lot more damage into giants like the like the sandworms. However, it's hard to say who is in the lead right now. I'm surprised Sarah's Victoria actually sold the Scorpion that was right here. That was between these two Scorpion, that was actually the one that did more damage. And Scorpions in general are just good units. They're great in taking down giants. They're great in taking down tanks. So it's just an overall good unit. One thing I've noticed that high-level players do against Sandworms is they like to take Ignite on the Fangs. Recently, I've casted a game where there's a level 9 Sandworm, and the opponent was trying to use multi-melters to deal with it, but it was not very successful. So getting a couple Fangs there allows you to whittle down the massive amount of HP in terms of a percentage so that your unit will have an easier time. And it's super cheap too. I think Ignite was what, 250 or 300? I can't be sure, but it's not a very expensive tech, and it's usually one of the first techs that you can get when you're using Fangs this way. But in this case, I think you might want to get shielded Fangs later on, just so that I can keep the worms above ground a little bit longer. Alright, so we got double oil. This one is going to get ignited, which means bye-bye Stonecrawlers. The Sandworms are coming in, however, they are having to travel all the way across the map from the back end, so this worm is still on the ground here. The marksmen are getting a lot of experience, so that is a little scary. And also the Vulcans getting leveled, which means now they're tanky. Alright, Sandworm is finally getting onto some good targets. And this one as well, so without any sort of meat shield in front of it. In fact, these two marksmen might actually be killed. I was going to say be killed by the Stonecrawlers, but it did survive to see the worm. Alright, pretty big round here. Getting scaled down to 660, so Sarah's Victoria in a commanding lead in terms of HP. Heavy armor, great card to be on a worm, or even on a giant of any kind. And I'm surprised Skye skipped that wonderful card. Alright, Sarah's Victoria took the armor onto this now level 4 worm, rocking a whopping 176,000 HP. Alright, we added 1 Scorpion back, 2 Scorpion back with Acid, just to help with the worm a little bit. So Acid is tricky. Right now, if you don't have range, if you're just running Acid, that just means your Scorpions are going to get pretty close into the worm. So you can't put them too far forward because they will get outranged by pretty much everything. And also on your side of the board, as a blue player, most of the blues carry units outrange the Scorpion, right? So your Vulcan marksmen, they both outrange the Scorpion. So very intelligently, the Scorpions are being positioned in the back. And also on the right hand side, because there's oil on the left hand side, so he does expect the Sandworms to start moving towards the right hand side. Let's see if it works out for him. Acid could be very powerful, especially with double shot marksman. But for now, there's not going to be double shot. It's just going to be shooting squad. So lots of fangs with ignite, acid. Alright, my biggest worry is this level 4 worm down here with the armor. It's just a lot of HP for them to get through. Bombard did go down, but with very minimal effects, and we do have tons of Missile interceptor devices, trying to catch all these Stonecaller shots. Alright, one asset is already on this worm here. And it's still staying above ground and we're being shot at by a shooting squad of marksmen. Alright, getting back down. So that was pretty effective. However, the Scorpion is already dead, which means this worm continues to stay alive. Okay. Getting tower, now moving over to the other side. We still have two worms on the ground. One level 3 and one level 4 with heavy armor. Level 3 is dead, and here's the level 4. Nope, still, nope, well, can't click on it. Yeah, here's the level 4 with heavy armor. It does survive. Just for a little bit longer, so this is not going to be a win here for Ceres Victoria. And what that means is now these marksmen are going to get levels. At least on the side here. Laser sight is offered. Photon is offered. But in standard, Photon just takes too long to for the units to arrive. So laser sight makes sense. I'm surprised there's not going to be laser sight on Skay's side. I mean, if I were him, I'll probably just get range on the Scorpions. Or in this case, siege on the Scorpions. So right now, the Scorpions' only purpose is to drop acid into the opponent's board. Elite is taking on the arc lights, giving them even more range and also damage. The arc lights themselves, they don't typically survive that long. I mean, last round, these guys only, and especially this one here, only survived a few shots before he got taken down. I think the reason for that is because there's no chaff in front of it, right? So the moment it starts shooting, it's just going to get one-shotted by this level 4 marksman. Similar story on the other side, but this arc light is actually positioned a little bit, no, similar story on that side. High explosive is added onto the Stormcallers, giving them even more efficient chaff clear. However, high explosive also reduces their damage into the giant. So right now, if you're looking at the board here, one thing you'll notice is that our rep player doesn't actually have enough damage to take down these big units like this level 3 Vulcan. But Acid, though, taking advantage of the lack of frontline chaff and is absolutely murdering these chaff clear units. Ooh, the worm gets acided, but this level 4 worm is still standing, and now it's getting into range. Now that's really scary. So sure, we do have some Scorpions shooting acid at it, but this worm seems to have no real defender. It is out of tower debuff, which means the acid is able to kill it, but it was a scary moment. All right, great round here for our blue player, but I think now Ceres Victoria really need to think about what sort of long-range anti-giant options he would need to go with. Because these two marksmen are not going to cut it, and neither will the Sandworms. The Wasp is probably going to be a choice for both players. It's going to be a choice for our red player simply because they are marksmen on the ground. And it's going to be a choice for Skay is just because none of the other units actually makes any sense. And you already know that there's going to be Wasp coming your way, so you need a way to defend against it. So I wouldn't be surprised that both of them are going to either tag them. So it's already double tag with anti-air and range. He's already expecting the Wasp coming in from the blue side. Siege Scorpions are, they recently been buffed, which means the Siege now shoots at 100 meters instead of the previous, I believe, 70 meters more. So now it makes it one of the furthest shooting units at 200 meters straight out of the gate with just siege without even taking range. Your Stonecrawlers only shoots at 180, so you get temp range, you get 195. And Siege Scorpions cannot be intercepted, right? With Stonecrawlers, you can just put a bunch of AM devices, which Skeet currently does. He's got, what, like 7 AM devices, 8 AM devices. So that's more than enough devices to stop 5 packs of Stonecrawlers. Oh, no, never mind. 7. We got 2 that's kind of heading back in the edge here. More Vulcan. Lots of HP in front. And I'm surprised that he did not really fix the frontline issue. I guess he sort of did, right? So these crawlers are now coming in so that this Arclight does not get one-shotted right away. But, I mean, it still gets killed pretty early on both sides. And the problem with those Arclight is just this Sandworm gets stuck for a little bit onto the chaff. Alright, we have Wasp coming in, but it's just sheer number of marksmen from both Best Buddy and just the marksman that Skate bought was just very powerful. And then on the far left here, these mobile beacon Wasp coming in super late, and the only real defense are these 2 marksmen, so there's not going to be any work to be done here. And just looking at the board, we have 4 Scorpions, a bunch of marksmen. Probably not going to be a Vulcan left over. We'll see. Ooh, it's barely surviving. I think this might actually be lethal. And indeed, it is going to be lethal. So, what a game here between Skate and Ceres Victoria. I think the problem with Ceres Victoria in the later rounds is really just the lack of damage output. Like, the worms are great with armor. It's creating quite a bit of distraction. And if you cannot follow that up with the damage that you need, maybe a melting point, maybe even more marksman, and then you're going to have a bad time. Siege Scorpion, I think, was a genius move. He was lacking damage to deal with this high-level worm, so he needed a way to deliver that asset from a safe distance. And later on, it's really helping out with the rest of the units as well. So, a very good round, very innovative play. This is almost like the VULCAN+MARKSMEN 2.0. I definitely want to try this in my games. All right, I hope you enjoyed this game. And if you want to see another one, here's a video for you. And I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.